Yep.
Is it? Great.
Hi.
Good morning. Sorry if you caught our very short previous video of about half a second when we realised that we didn't have the internet outside with us. So that's not going to work. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. This is our all-age Bible reading. We've just decided that we haven't just decided, but we love the Bible so much, and we just wanted to find a really good way of sharing it with people more, particularly young people. And so we thought we're just going to read some of the Bible together this morning, and kind of react to it as we go along. Talk about what we're hearing in the passage, and you can join in. You can comment down below what the things that you're thinking as you do it. And hopefully it'll be really good. So this morning, hopefully
we've got an activity afterwards as well. So if you're an activity sort of person, you want to do something with it, then you can.
Yeah. So we're going to start by finding the Bible passage for this morning.
Yep.
It's the story of the road to Emmaus, and you can find that in Luke chapter 24, beginning at verse 13. So Ruth
remembered.
I think. So Ruth's going to show you how to find that.
So if you take your Bible, split it into 4. So the middle will probably be about Psalms. And then you want to go to the middle of the second half, which will probably end you up in a Gospel. Luke. So I'm in the right book.
What order do the Gospels go in?
Matthew, Mark, Luke and John.
Brilliant. So we want book 3 of the New Testament, which is Luke.
And then there are big numbers and little numbers. We want to find the big number, 24. They are laid out as they should be. And the little number, 13.
Great.
I've no idea how to know whether anyone is going to look for it and whether they've found it or not.
I think we'll just
assume that that's long enough.
With the length of that explanation, that was long enough. And if you're not watching this live, then you'll be able to. Someone put a thumbs up. They found it. You'll be able to pause the video to find it. But we're going to go ahead and start reading from.
Just for anyone that's just joining, Luke 24 verse 13.
Great. And we're going to start reading. And my face is slowly disappearing in a cloud of sunshine.
Not the opposite, a cloud of sunshine.
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's start reading. Let's do the Bible. That's probably going to be better.
Great.
So, this is the NIV. Now, that same day...
What day?
Okay, we'll have to backtrack slightly, won't we?
Yeah.
So this is that same Easter Sunday.
Okay.
The start of the chapter, Luke 24, which is the same day as is the resurrection. So the first day of the week, very early in the morning, when the women come to the tomb and find that it's empty. That same day... Okay.
I did not realise that the road to Emmaus was the same day as the resurrection day.
Yeah, so this is the same day. Jesus has left the tomb, and we're going to find out where he's gone to.
Great.
So that same day, two of the disciples, two of Jesus' followers, were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. So they were setting off from Jerusalem, 7-mile walk, down the road to Emmaus, because Jerusalem's always up.
Okay.
So down the road to Emmaus.
Great.
And they were talking with each other about everything that had happened.
Everything being, the death and resurrection of Jesus.
They didn't know about the resurrection yet.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're just talking about, they're going to be talking about how they'd really believed that he was going to be the one who was going to lead them, the one who was going to save Israel.
Yeah.
But
they're utterly devastated that it didn't come to be.
It started so promisingly on that Palm Sunday, and everyone was welcoming him in. And then in a week, it all turned around, and suddenly he was dead.
It's pretty devastating, isn't it? When you think this incredible thing is going to happen, and actually it looks like it's game over. Yeah.
For that to happen in a week is just crazy. It must have completely turned their worlds upside down. So they're trying to work out what's going on, talking about it. And as they talked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them.
So they're talking about Jesus, about everything that they'd hoped that he would do, and suddenly there he is next to them.
Yeah, he comes
Cool.
up and catches them up. Probably
Okay.
that's what it sounds like to me. That he comes up because if he was walking that way, then he wouldn't then walk with them. So he must have been walking faster. So we know
Okay.
Jesus is a fast
Speed walker. Great.
Jesus came up and was walking along with them.
Okay.
So they were having this private conversation.
Yeah. And then this random.
when suddenly a random stranger comes and joins them.
Do they wait?
Well, you're getting ahead of
Getting onto
yourself.
that bit.
Verse 16, they were kept from recognising him.
Why?
So they didn't even know that it was Jesus.
How?
Well, so it's really funny because a couple of times when Jesus appears to people, it seems like they don't recognise him, and people are like, "Oh, what? Why don't people recognise Jesus?
If they've
Does he
known
look
him-
different? What's going on there?" And I was thinking about this that when people don't recognise Jesus, it's almost never something to do with Jesus. It's to do with us.
Okay.
It's them that are struggling to recognise Jesus. It's not that Jesus is like somehow
Shape-shifted or
yeah,
something.
like weird or different. The problem's always with us.
Okay.
When we fail to recognise Jesus, it's because we're not seeing clearly. And perhaps they've got so wrapped up in it, in their own heads, in their thing that they're talking about, and they've been talking about this Jesus dying. So in their heads, he's like, that's it.
He's not going to be walking alongside on the road with them.
Yeah, they're not expecting to see Jesus or to hear his voice again. And so when he comes and he's with them on the road, they don't even recognise him. They're kept from recognising him. And so he says to them, this stranger, that, as far as they can tell, this stranger who's with them as they're walking along, he asks them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" Prying into their conversation.
Rude.
Um,
Not rude. He's northern. It's acceptable.
What are you discussing together as you walk along? And they stopped walking. They
Yep.
stood still, their
Yep.
faces downcast. And one of them, whose neck, that's good, downcast face. They stopped still because they can't walk and talk at the same time. They stood still, their faces downcast. And one of them, named Cleopas, asked him, "Are you only a visitor to Jerusalem and do not know the things that have happened there in these days?"
So that must mean that what had happened, it wasn't like a thing that a few people knew about. It must have been that everybody knew what had been going on.
Oh, definitely. Like the size of the crowds, if you lived in Jerusalem, you would not have been able to avoid hearing about, probably seeing this man called Jesus who was just turning everything upside down and then publicly executed. They didn't want to make a secret of executing him because this was a rebel. They wanted to make an example of him.
They wanted to make sure that people knew that he was gone.
They were getting rid of Jesus, and and so they're like, "How can you not know?" It would be like someone today going, "Why is everyone like staying in their houses? What?"
How do you not know what's going on?
Yeah, like
Great.
we've got it's the big issue of the day, the thing that everyone's talking about.
I love the next line. Can I read it?
Yeah.
So Jesus said, "What things?" Like
What
almost
things?
sarcastically, like, "What things?
Ah, tell me.
What are these things?"
Yeah.
I love that.
I think it's really cool as well because sometimes we can be like, "Oh, Jesus already knows everything about my life. Why should I tell him?" But I think sometimes Jesus wants us to tell him the things that are like the way our thoughts are going in our heads.
Yeah.
It's not that he doesn't know them, but he wants us to
He
tell
wants us
them.
to articulate them to
Yeah.
help us understand them better.
Yeah. Particularly for extroverts like you, because as you talk, it helps you understand better.
True.
And that might be true of you as well. "What things?" he asked. "About Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "He was a prophet." So here's them explaining what they think was happening.
Okay.
"He was a prophet, powerful in word and deed before God and all the people." So even if at some point they've heard of him being the Son of God, and maybe they even thought that at one point, the fact that he's dead now has perhaps made them kind of like downgrade him to being a prophet, because the Son of God doesn't die, but a prophet might die.
He was powerful.
Yeah,
But-
he was powerful in word and deed before God and all the people. So he was clearly from God. He was a prophet. He was speaking God's words. But the chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death, and they crucified him. And a lot of the people who are messengers from God were persecuted. They were attacked for the messages that they had. So that would be in keeping with him being a prophet.
Yeah.
And even that would be remarkable because they hadn't had a prophet in Israel for many years. And so then they go on to say, we had hoped that he was going to be the one to redeem Israel.
Interesting that it says we had hoped. There's no hope anymore. They are done with hope that this is the man. So they had hoped that he was going to be the one to redeem Israel. They had got so excited that this Messiah, this was it. This was going to be the breaking of the hold over Israel.
Yeah, like you wake up on Christmas morning and go, yes, it's going to be
Jesus.
Christmas morning. And then someone tells you, no, Christmas is cancelled. I had hoped it was going to be Christmas, but Christmas cancelled. It's not cancelled, by the way. We had hoped that he was going to be the one to redeem, rescue Israel. And what is more, it's the third day since all this took place. And in addition, some of our women amazed us. They went to the tomb early this morning, but they didn't find his body. And they came and told us that they'd seen visions of angels who said he was alive.
So they were clearly there. So the previous bit of the reading says that the women had gone to the tomb and then they went back and told the disciples. So these guys maybe were there.
So they were probably among the disciples when the women came back and told them, because they said then, they remember that some of the companions then go to the tomb and find it just as the women had said, but they didn't see Jesus. And so they're kind of saying there's this weird rumour going around that Jesus' body's gone, and some unreliable women, because
women.
I know it feels like they're just dismissing women and saying, it's fine. Who saw anything? But these women think they saw a vision of angels, and that Jesus is alive.
Yeah.
So they've got this rumor, but they're pretty skeptical about it. It sounds to me. So then Jesus says to them in reply, "How foolish you are!"
I love that. These random strangers that are walking along the road, and then Jesus, so they don't know who he is, goes, you're foolish. I love that. I'd be like, I'm sorry, who are you to tell me this?
Yeah.
Turns out it's Jesus, so he is allowed to tell me that.
I feel like there must have been something in the way Jesus talks that you would just never cut him off. You'd never stop listening to him. How foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Did not the Christ have to suffer these things and then enter his glory? And beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself.
Can you imagine those days when you're reading the Bible and you read a bit of the scriptures and you're like, that just doesn't make sense? Could you imagine having Jesus explaining it to you?
I know, I have to try and preach sermons about all different parts of the Bible.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if only I'd heard that sermon
that
Jesus
been
preached,
so good.
then I'd know all of the things to say.
Yeah.
Jesus would be just like, Jesus explains from all the prophets, all the Old Testament. Here's what it says about me, and I think that's a real encouragement to us when we get into this massive chunk of the first half of the Bible.
Quite a lot of it.
When it kind of seems like, I'm not sure what it's about. Jesus says it's about me.
All
the
about
whole
me.
Bible. So whenever we're doing this thing of reading the Bible together, the Bible's about Jesus, the whole Bible, not just those stories of his life, but the whole Bible, all about Jesus.
Yeah. And presumably they had quite a long time. If they're walking 7 miles, that's going to take them a good...
How long does it take you to walk 7 miles?
Oh, like about an hour.
No. Whoa.
I
You
don't
can't
know,
even
maybe,
run it that quick.
Maybe 3 hours? About 3 hours or so?
Let's call it 3 hours.
Yeah. So they've got 3 hours of Jesus
3 hour long sermon.
explaining all of the prophets and... the whole story of the Old Testament. Yeah,
and then classic Jesus, as they're approaching the village to which they're going, Jesus acts as if he's going further. He's not. But cheeky Jesus move, like he did it in the boat when they're in the storm, and he was when he's walking on water across the lake. He's going to go straight past them, and they have to stop him. So as they approach the village, Jesus acts as if they're going, as if he's going further.
I like how you slightly took us further.
The swing seat is strong.
That's a liability.
So he acts as if he's going further, and it's like he's giving them an opportunity to invite him in. He always gives us those opportunities to say, "Hey Jesus, why don't you be with me now? Invite me in." So they urge him strongly, "Stay with us. Stay with us, Jesus." It's nearly evening. The day is almost over. So he goes in to stay with them. And when he's at the table with them, he takes bread. Here's my prop, hot cross bone bread. He takes bread.
So this isn't his house.
No.
So that he's gone to someone else's house. These disciples, it might be their house or it might be someone else's.
Like a relative, maybe.
Yeah. So they've gone, and then Jesus just presumptuously is like, hold on a sec, I'm going to take the bread and give a blessing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So Jesus is there at the table. He takes the bread. He gives thanks. He broke it and began to give it to them. You probably recognise those actions and those words because they're the same words that Jesus uses at the Last Supper. They're kind of the same words that Jesus uses at the feeding of the 5,000. This is like Jesus' signature move, and like this is only 4 days. 4 days after he's done that for the first time. 3 days, 4 days, 4 days.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
It's the 4th day that after he's done that. So it's so fresh in their memory. This is their memory of Jesus. This is like a defining Jesus moment.
Yeah.
The thing where he was explaining, and suddenly all of that stuff. All of that stuff that he'd spoken about on that final supper, about having to die and rise again, suddenly it all becomes clear to them. And it says in the passage, then their eyes were opened and they recognised him. So it wasn't anything they did. God opened their eyes and enabled them to see who Jesus really was in that breaking of the bread, that act of remembering Jesus in that way.
It's crazy that it's not when he's talking about himself or explaining about himself. It's in that moment of breaking bread, of communion, of that signature move of Jesus.
And I think it says it's something about our hearts that we can hear all these messages in our head and hear really good things and have lots of knowledge about Jesus, but it's got to break into our hearts and
the eyes have got to be opened.
Change our change us at an emotional, spiritual level, not just an intellectual level. And
the next bit's slightly crazy.
So they recognise him.
Yeah.
Disappears from sight.
What?
Work's done. It's another mic drop moment.
Mic drop / disappearing moment.
Break the bread.
Jesus out.
Drop the bread.
So what? He literally just disappeared?
Yeah, he gave the bread to them, then disappeared from their sight. I mean, it doesn't say that he left. Perhaps he's still in the room. They can't see him any longer. I don't know. Just make stuff up now. And so they look at each other and they're like, weren't our hearts burning within us? So they kind of know that something was starting to happen in their hearts as he was speaking to them on the road, and he's opening the scriptures to them. So that work has started in their heart, and they're starting to believe and understand, and now they get it fully, and they can look back and see this way that God has been working in their lives, helping them to understand what Jesus is really doing.
That's crazy.
So they got up and returned at once to Jerusalem. Now,
so the 7 miles that they'd plodded
7
along
miles,
earlier.
evening meal.
Yeah.
Don't care. Run back.
They've got to tell people.
I can't imagine it took them a longer time to get back than it did to get there. Because on the way there, it's like that downcast
they're sad,
heavy walking. And then on the way back, it's like,
we've
got the most amazing message to tell. Let's do it. So they go back, returned at once to Jerusalem, and found the 11 and those with them assembled together, and saying, "It's true, the Lord has risen and has appeared to Simon." So Simon Peter has seen Jesus as well in the meantime. So they come back with this news like, "Jesus is alive, we've seen him!" And they're like, "Yeah, we know, because Simon's seen him too!" So their news is a little bit undercut by that, but it's also really cool because it's totally confirmed. They're like, everyone's seeing it. The Lord's risen and has appeared to Simon. Jesus has been everywhere, just seeing everyone.
So the disappearing thing, he was there, and then he was there, and then he was there, and he's been all over the place.
Yeah, and then the two of them tell their story, and there's so much power in telling their story, what happened on the way, and how Jesus was recognised by them when he broke bread. And that's so cool because when we have those stories, we can, with Jesus, we can tell them to people, and they can be really powerful.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool.
That was the end of the Bible reading.
Great.
I hope you got as excited about that Bible reading as we did. But
if any of you have any questions or any thoughts or anything thoughts, do pop them in the comments and we'll be able to see them. It'd be really good to see what you thought. And
someone giving it up for the extroverts.
Whoop extroverts.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
So do you want to explain the activity?
I'd love to. Okay.
Doing?
So, we are at the moment going on a walk every day together because freedom, that's what we can do. And we thought that it would be really great today if, when you go for your walk, you do some of that telling stories. So you have some time to either share what Jesus has done for you, or to mull over those things. What do we know about Jesus in the Old Testament? What do we know about what's happened, about the Easter story? What does it all mean? What does it mean to you, to me?
And it's really cool because just like Jesus was walking with those two on their road, Jesus can walk with you today. So when you go for a walk today, if you have some time of quiet, then you can just walk with Jesus. You can imagine him walking alongside you, and you can talk to him. You can ask him questions, and you can listen to what he might be saying to you. You don't have to always pray by kind of sitting quietly in a room and closing your eyes and folding your hands. You can go for a walk with Jesus. Yeah. It's such a powerful way of meeting him. It's
definitely, I think, the thing that I feel when I'm most muddled in my head, or I've got things that I really just want to talk to God about. Going for a walk is the thing that helps me do that. So that would be one recommendation. Chat to other people about the story, about your story, and talk to God. But if you aren't able to leave the house, I don't know if this is an official thing, but I'm going to make it a thing. So take a piece of paper and draw, that's a bit bright, draw a road on it, whatever your road looks like. And I thought it could be really helpful to just put down on a road the things that you're thinking or the things that you want to talk to God about. So it might be that you kind of write them on your road or around the outside. Use it almost like a mind dump of the things that you're thinking about and get it down onto paper. And then use it. Maybe reflect on it over a couple of days. In my head, I would be writing in one colour on one day and then add another colour in on a different day and kind of see how the picture builds up. It doesn't have to be particularly beautiful because that's just a line on a piece of paper. But hopefully that will help you to get your head around some of the things of the story and of Jesus and of what is going on with you at the moment.
Brilliant. So we'd really encourage you to do that today. Have a walk with Jesus. And if you want to respond with if singing and dancing is your thing, then we've just released a new action song. It's not that new, but as far as I know, the actions aren't out there yet. So we've put out those actions. It's called Scream It. It's just been premiering on YouTube just now, so you should be able to find it, and we'll comment it in the comments down here where to find that.
Great. We hope you've enjoyed today. We're going to be doing this each week, midweek, probably on a Wednesday, probably about this time. Feel free to share it, like it. Oh, I sound really corporate, don't I? Sorry, don't do that if you don't want to. Genuine question. I've wanted to know this Easter, if the grave clothes were found inside the tomb, what was Jesus wearing Easter Sunday? Ooh, great question.
That's a good question. My guess is it would probably not have been a good idea for him to be wandering around in just nothing. So when he met, particularly when he met the disciples on the road, he was probably wearing traveller's clothes. Perhaps there's like when you are raised to life, you just get a heavenly wardrobe.
Heavenly wardrobe, great.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Really.
Cool. What do you think?
He might not have been wearing very much when he met them in the garden because apparently gardeners didn't wear many clothes. I'm sure someone told me that because it was hot work.
Kind of, Middle Eastern culture, maybe less clothes.
Yeah, but
great. We don't know.
We don't know. Ask Jesus when you're on your walk with him today.
So many frustrating questions that the answer is, who knows? We'll ask him when we get to heaven. It'll all be good.
Or on your walk today.
Or on your walk today.
All right.
Super. Take care.
God
Bye.
bless.